How did they end up doing, Pax? No
I
good?
did not go to the Phillies game today because I
Oh,
started my vacation
okay.
because
All
even the
right.
Philly sports guy needs a day off. But they
Yeah.
lost
All right.
today.
Okay. Well, there you go. Anyways, we will go forward and talk about a baseball legend here who passed away yesterday. The great Say Hey Kid himself, Willie Mays, who came up through the Negro Leagues, ended up on the New York Giants, went with the Giants to San Francisco, had an unbelievable career, ended up ending his career with the New York Mets when he was a lot older. The man was probably maybe the first five-tool baseball player in the history of baseball. He ended up with 660 home runs, 1,909 RBIs, 3,293 hits, stole a ton of bases, fast as heck, one of the best center fielders of all time. He's a 24-time All-Star. I mean, this guy was something else. So, listen, there's a debate. There's always been a debate on who the greatest baseball player was of all time. Normally, you get Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth took the baseball from a ballpark game to a national market. I mean, it became the Major League Baseballs a lot because of Babe Ruth. Of course, near the top in every hitting category there is. One of the best pitchers when he pitched. But Willie Mays not only had the power, not only a great fielder, but had the speed too. And, his famous catch in center field during the World Series. I mean, he had a lot of huge moments. So anybody got any opinions on where does Willie Mays rank? Is he top 5, top 3, number 1? What do you think, James?
So,
I'm let you go ahead, Sonia, you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said anybody. I was just sitting here. So he was actually ranked only second to Babe Ruth, if the statistics are actually correct. Of course, he's had a 23 season player, being one of the greatest players ever. So when you speak about ranking, in my opinion, with all the stats, especially from the 1948 Negro American League, etc., he and Babe Ruth could actually be interchangeable if those facts were to be debated. I wouldn't be surprised if the stats actually showed that he was the greatest and not Babe Ruth. But at a minimum, we know that he is a close second to Babe Ruth. So rest in peace to 93-year-old, very well lived life, Willie Mays, and a 23 season, with the MLB and the baseball league that it was during his time.
Well, James, Hank Aaron, you got to mention too. Hank Aaron, some people think is the leading home run guy of all time. They're not counting because of the steroids with Bonds. But Hank Aaron, again, Mr. Consistency, great, a very good outfielder, maybe not as fast as Willie Mays, but he's up there. I mean, if you had a Mount Rushmore, I think Willie Mays would be on the top, at least top 4 players of all time.
Well, I would say that I don't have the knowledge for baseball to really argue who's in the top 5 or who's on the Mount Rushmore. But if you still don't know baseball and you just know history and you know greats, I've heard. Can you hear me? I've heard Willie Mays' name is synonymous with baseball. I'm a numbers guy, so if I hear the name, I'm going to look at those stats, and I've always known these stats, and I'm impressed with how great his stats are. Considering what I'm reading is that he had nearly 2 full seasons that he served in the Korean War, so away from baseball. And again, like you said, 660 home runs, 3,000 hits. And the speed and 24 seasons, 12 gold gloves, that kind of thing. He have to be in the top 5 at least. I don't even know the players, but I like the argument. So I'm going to put it number 1 because I can't just speak on who's the greatest because I don't know all the numbers for everyone. I know a name like Hank Aaron, like you said. People don't want to put Barry Bonds in that top because of the shroud of the steroid era. But yeah, Willie Mays has to be in the top 3 at least. The argument at least is great for me, considering this is an African American that came from Negro leagues, like you said, that and came into baseball when it was segregated, and to come into baseball and bring these type of numbers is astounding to me, at least.
You know, Pags, a lot of players back then were either in World War II, Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams. A lot of people at that time, they actually didn't even have to get drafted. They volunteered to go in. So that being understood, that a lot of players have lost a lot of hits and home runs and RBIs and so on because of the wars. I just think that what made Mickey Mantle more special than a lot of players was his defense. I mean, we saw the catch. There's other highlights I saw of some catches he made that were unbelievable. That was in the World Series, the catch over the head, the basket catch. And to me, I mean, that's what separates a lot of players, right? Their defense instead of just their offense.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was what, an 18-time Gold Glove winner or something like that. He started 18 All-Star games. I think there was one season where he led the league in home runs and triples. So, I mean, there's just so many different things that you could say about him. It's kind of a shame I never got to see him play. I mean, obviously, I've seen video of the catch and stuff like that. And it's a shame that obviously at 93 years old, it kind of shows he played into his 40s, and it's been, still I was still too young or not even born yet to be able to witness any of that. So it's stuff that legends are made of, and ultimately in maybe now as he's passed, now we're starting to talk about it a little bit more. But I mean, these are the things that, that what built baseball. It's the legends that people continue to talk about is what makes baseball America's pastime. And I think that he fits right into there.
I agree, Pags. And the great thing about baseball is it really hasn't changed that much. If you think about it, baseball compared to some of the other sports, I'll say baseball and hockey, the rules are basically the same. They did add a go second base runners, whatever they did there. But basically, they haven't done what the NFL has done and expanded the amount of games and made offense more of because of the penalties and the fouls that they do in the NFL. The 3-point line came in the 80s for the NBA, and they don't play as physical as they did. Baseball pretty much, Pags, has stayed the same since the 30s, 40s.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the only thing that really has changed is the ball. And where sometimes they've had a juice ball, sometimes they've had a dead ball. But other than that, everything in baseball has just about remained the same. And to be, like I said, greatness only comes around every once in a while. You know what I mean? And there's certain people that can be elevated into that great status. You could say that. I mean, you could say anybody's really good. And trust me, the Hall of Fame is full of somewhat good baseball players. But obviously, Willie Mays is definitely put in. Like I said, you can argue when he goes into the argument, of all-time greats. You got to know it's something that's the argument can be made for, and I think that's really the best that could be said about him.
I agree. And Brian makes a point here. Say the same, how the steroid era, juice bowl era, bandbox stadiums now. And Sonia, listen, every sport has steroid use. Baseball had, Pittsburgh Steelers were juicing back when they had the steel curtain. Everybody juices. Boxers have been juicing. Runners have been juicing. It's happening. At the time baseball did this, it was legal. And let's be honest here for a minute, Sonia. I mean, it didn't become illegal until after the players started using it. So that was something the MLB did after the fact. And as far as bandbox stadiums, listen, stadiums are different in every arena almost. So that's, again, what makes baseball unique. It's not a standard stadium. It's not a standard 100 yards by 50 yards wide. Am I right, Sonia?
Yeah, everything is different. And to piggyback on something, I was thinking about what Peg said. This is just one of those situations with Willie Mays. Unfortunately, we don't give people their due diligence until after they've gone. They always have this adage that said the best musicians sell the best music or best rappers after they're gone. And it's just the truth. Everybody goes out and Google searches, this celebrity, this athlete, this rapper, this musician after they've gone. And for just a little bit, at least after their passing, their sales, their regalia, what have you, literally skyrocket because people are scrambling to find the last tidbits of this person's legacy while they were here on this earth. And so the same can be said about the changes in baseball. We are looking at what's here, but overall, there hasn't been that much of a change. But when people started to abuse and they started to see things present, to answer your question, Mac, then that's when it's illegal because the performances are changed. And let's be honest, just like the NFL, just like all other sports, it is a money market. I guarantee you, just in my opinion, if perchance the MLB, since we're talking about the MLB right now, if they were to say, okay, pharmaceutical companies, we will give you part of our proceeds so that you can go ahead and juice up our athletes and we can win the games and do what we want to do, then guess what? They're going to make it happen. It's no longer going to be illegal. Things are only illegal because there is a money market and someone is not benefiting from the profit. It has nothing to do with health.
And to answer, actually, I want to go on this. Not only that, Brian, but think about like it. Not only like if he was playing today, and yes, he'd get a lot more home runs, but he would have gotten a lot more MVPs. Back then, even like 70s, 60s, and 50s, you had to be the pennant winner, and they usually pick the best player on that team to be the MVP. It's not like it was voted on to like it is today, where the best player in baseball gets the MVP. Mm-hmm. So because he was on some crappy teams sometimes, he lost out on MVPs when he was having MVP seasons.
Yep.
Good point. Good point. So, Pags, we're gonna cover the NHL playoffs here right away. Listen, Edmonton to me made a statement last night, and Florida better pick up their defense. I'm not going to just blame their goalie right now. They broke away on some big plays there. Connor McDavid did a great job, and not only scoring but setting his players up with assists. And right now, to me, Florida's got to find a way to stop them from doing those breakaways, or they could lose this series, even though they're up 3-2.
So I fully believe that although Edmonton won that game 4 8-1, I felt like Florida gave them that game to try to win it at home. And Edmonton won the game last night. Like Edmonton won that game. Connor played way over his head. I don't like the guy. I'm not a fan of the way he does things, but I am a fan of good hockey, and he's been playing amazing hockey these last 2 games, but really this last game specifically. I felt like that was the game really that Florida really was like, they just said they wanted to win it at home, and they threw the game in Edmonton, game 4. And this is what happens when you throw a game. When you lose a game 8-1, you could tell they had no interest in playing. Let's go back home and win it. And they didn't win it. So now this is where I call it's like the butthole pucker. You better start to strap the boots up and really get back to what got you there in the first place. Because they didn't do that yesterday, and Edmonton took advantage. And they tried it at the very end, but even then, like I said, they just didn't have enough. So they're going to have to really figure it out. I think they still do it. I think Bobrovsky has the game of his life, and he winds up putting it away, and it winds up being like a 1-0 shutout or maybe a 2-0 shutout up in Edmonton, because I think this is the time where Bobrovsky is going to. He's got to carry this team on his back right now, and it's going to the buck is going to stop with him, or the puck is going to stop with him.
Gotcha.
And they're going back to Canada. I can't believe it.
Hey, listen, we've been winning Canada's game year after year after year. We're waiting to see if a Canadian team can come up and maybe win a Stanley Cup here. Can you imagine Canada, a team from Florida, going to beat you in the Stanley Cup? That's just wild to me.
Yeah, but there ain't no players from Florida on that team. They're all from Canada and
Right.
Russia and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
the fact that they play in Miami, you can't help where you play.
that's true. It just seems wrong, Pax.
It does.
It just seems.
I get it.
Let's get our final wrap up on the NBA, James. Boston wraps it up. Jaylen Brown gets the MVP. Tatum had his best game of the series that night. The Celtics just are overwhelming. I mean, if Kyrie doesn't play as good as Kyrie can play, and Luka's a little hurt, and I mean, they don't have an answer for this team. And Boston wins their 18th championship, first one since 2008. And, you got to give credit to all the Boston players. Of course, the dynamic duo, definitely. But all the Boston players seem to come in and they all make significant contributions in a game. And that's almost impossible to start if you can't even match their front five.
Right. So you have to really give credit to the coaching. I think coaching is just phenomenal from top to bottom. With the previous coach that they had, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla, both these guys did a great job with this team, and they did a wonderful job in recruiting and trading for Drew Holiday. That made the difference, and having Porzingis. Porzingis, although he missed a couple of games, he still made an effort to be a dominant presence both defensively and offensively. But in totally, Boston defense is just stifling to Dallas. They didn't really have an answer. And Kyrie, he had one good game in the whole series, but it wasn't really on Kyrie. I think it was more so just the dominance in the defense of Boston. They deserve this win, and I think every player bought in. Everybody was mentally, which is bought in as a team effort. They always, when you hear them talk, they're always talking about we, not I. It was just a total team effort, and I think they just dominated. And they had good health. They had good luck with health. And as Pag would say, they also had some help with other teams having players missing games from being not healthy, meaning New York, both Indiana, and particularly Philadelphia. But best ability is availability, and so they got through. And they played against a team that was pretty much intact, and they handily beat them up.
Let's welcome in Keith Angle from TGI Sports. Good evening, Keith. How you doing today?
Hi guys, how we doing?
Good, Keith. Listen. I wanna get your opinion on Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, of course, one-on-one, maybe the best driving and shooting, and at his prime, maybe one of the best of all time. But during this series, I just want to talk about the series. I'm not going to talk about all year. He was 31 for 81 from the field. He was 7 from 23 from three-point range, 4.75 assists. Now, I get it. Boston's got a good defense. But for Dallas to have a shot, Kyrie has to play at least at 25 points, has to be more accurate, has to drive to the basket more, has to dish off more. Is Kyrie Irving done as far as being a superstar, Keith?
Well, off this series, I mean, you can't say off one series he's done, right? I'm not a big Kyrie fan, but we said before the series, Luka and he had to come out big every game. If they were going to win, they had to come up big every game, and he didn't. And Luka didn't for different reasons, maybe, but neither one of them. I mean, we can't put this all on Kyrie Irving. I mean, Luka didn't play very well himself. And the defense, as you said, you've got to give some credit to him. I'm sure he's still got some, life left in his career, but, is he one of the top players in the game? We'll find out next year, but he's not one of the top players in playoff basketball and hasn't been since 2016. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. He did have problems in every playoffs he's been in. A little more baseball news. Mookie Betts is out 6 to 8 weeks. That will open up the MVP race in the NL. I think Mookie Betts, the way he was playing, if he could continue close to what he was playing, I think he would have won it. Now you got to look at Ohtani. You're going to have to look at Bryce Harper. You're going to have to look at this young kid I love who plays with let me get his name here. Who plays with the Ozuna, Marcel Ozuna. He's in contention for the Triple Crown, and depending on what his average is, has power in his bat, good base hitter and RBIs, and I would love to see somebody new get up there and get the MVP in the NL and even in the AL, if you want me to be honest. Judge got a fractured hand, got hit with a pitch. The X-rays are positive. He should be back soon. But you got him, you got Juan Soto, and you got a shortstop from Baltimore. Gunnar Henderson can do it at both sides of the plate. And Keith, I know you're a big baseball guy. Gunnar Henderson, I just want to see what some of these young guys get in there and get their recognition. I think Gunnar Henderson has a good shot, even if Judge leads the league in home runs.
Well, look, if they continue to play along the pace they are, all three of those guys, to me, the team that wins that division ought to get the MVP because that should matter, right? It should be from a winning team in my mind. If you're most valuable player in the league, you helped your team do something. And Gunnar Henderson is playing as well as anybody right now. I think he's only behind Judge in home runs, if I'm not mistaken. And he's been on fire. And this is a team, by the way, you talk about injuries. As a Yankee fan, Baltimore won't go away. Yankees have won the last two, yes. But nobody's had more injuries than Baltimore. And, I mean, 3/4 of their pitching staff has gone out. A couple of their one of their offensive guys, I can't think who it is right now, hasn't played well. They counted on Jackson Holiday, and he didn't do anything when he came up. I still think that he'll come up during the season and produce and help this team later in the season. But this is a great series the Yankees and Orioles are playing right now. And I didn't see Cole's numbers today. I wish I had because I didn't get a chance to look at the box score today. I hope he did all right and came through it injury free. But I think one of those three guys is going to be the MVP in the American League for sure.
I think so too. Sonia, I've talked about this and Pags too, because I know Pags is in the National League with the Phillies. This young kid, Paul Skeens, I think is his name. I think I'm pronouncing it right. 103-mile-an-hour fastball. Didn't have his stuff last night. Last game he pitched, he didn't have his fastball. But 7. I hope I didn't freeze up. Did I freeze up for a second? He struck out in 6 innings. He struck out 7 batters. Yeah, so he struck out 7 in 6 innings anyway, and that was with his breaking ball and his changeups. And if a kid can throw 103 consistently and still win and still strike out people without it, this is going to be something special, Sonia.
Yeah, Paul Skeens, that was a really big test that he was against the victory pitch he had against the Reds. This was just a day ago, and he's really come on the scene into his own, just literally, like, in my opinion, just a real quiet behind-the-scenes player that has adjusted and really been executing in a lot of small scenarios in the first inning, no doubt. So to see this young man be with a team that's not necessarily, one that we would look to for this type of play is pretty big. And, I wish, the Braves had him on our team, honestly, because he is a really good youthful player. I think he's going to do even better in years to come because of all the talent we've seen so early on with him.
Pags, go ahead.
Braves could have him in a couple of years because the Pirates are unlikely to give him much of a contract.
Yeah.
Years from now.
Probably right. Pags, I mean, you go and watch the Phillies games. I understand that, but if you're just a fan and the Pirates are coming to town and Paul Skeens is pitching, is he now a fans are just going to want to go see this guy pitch? Is he there yet?
No. It wasn't until you told me his name that I even knew who he was.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there was a closer for the Padres yesterday throwing it at 103, 102 miles an hour as a closer. Guess what? he gave up all 3 runs to have the Phillies do a walk-off. So I think pitching fast and pitching over 100 isn't a big deal anymore. Until somebody pitches like 106, like when it blows up the bat and the catcher still catches the ball. Like that's until something like that happens. I think pitchers pitch fast now. I think that they're able to get more velocity and they're able to get over 100 miles an hour. If we're talking 10 years ago, there may have been 8 pitches for the entire year that got over 100 miles an hour. I think we had 8 pitches in this game alone that had over 100 miles an hour. So I think pitchers are just pitching better now. And just because he can pitch 103 doesn't mean that it's anything exciting to go see him yet.
Well, I mean,
Peg,
to me,
he should have told Pegs he was dating Olivia Dunn. He might have known who he was then, probably.
I don't know her either.
Well, to me, a reliever pitching 100 miles an hour for 2 batters or 3 batters isn't the same as pitching 100 miles an hour for 6-7 innings. And when you can do that, when you're like that I'm trying to remember, was it Verlander who threw over 100 miles an hour that's hurt all the time? I know it's one of these guys that yeah. Well, I mean, to me, that's pretty impressive. And I know even if the Yankees were in last place, if I got somebody, a young and upcoming star who's striking out more batters than innings, I might go see him. I might just do that to see this pitcher pitch.
Well, I kind of agree a little bit, but that being said, I mean, the fact that he pitches, like I said, 103 miles an hour isn't as exciting. You know what I mean? If he was pitching 103 miles an hour and then had like a 78 mile per hour changeup where batters are swinging way early because it's such a transition, that and then have a couple other pitches behind that would be amazing to watch. Somebody who'd be able to utilize his pitches to be able to get deep into games carrying a no-hitter, things like that he can't be found out. That's what would be exciting to watch as a pitcher. Until he gets to that point, we're not there yet, I think, with him.
100%. These guys, this is part of the problem with the game today, is these guys are paid to go out there and throw as hard as they can, as long as they can. And that's why we're seeing this plethora of arm injuries we're seeing as well, with a lot of great young pitchers. I want to see guys pitch, not throw. So I agree with Peg.
All right. Okay. So anyway, we've got good evening from Rick. Glad to have you aboard, Rick. Steven, thanks for joining us. Aloha Kakua to you too. There you go, Rick Samaroano. And then we got Jay the Maker. All right. I don't know who that is, but I don't know what he makes. But good evening, Jay. Got Jay the Maker on. One thing that I wouldn't want to see is Boston stealing 9 bases in a game against Lee Trevino. That's who I think was catching, because it wasn't Jose. It was the golfer, had to be behind home plate because he couldn't throw anybody out, Keith.
That's a good line, actually. I like that. I might steal that this weekend. I like that one.
Okay,
yeah,
go right ahead.
Stolen bases is another thing that is a tricked up category now. They make the bases bigger, which, by the way, makes the baselines shorter. Pitchers can only throw over twice, so we've put all these rules in to help the stolen base category, and this is kind of what you get is 9 stolen bases in a game. I mean, I want to see pitch. I want to see stolen bases, and I want to see hit and runs, and I want to see baseball played the way it should be played, but you can't make it easier for them by changing the rules every time you don't like the way the game's going. So
yeah, but 4 inches, I'm telling you, 4 inches ain't saving a catcher. If the catcher can't throw anybody out, the catcher can't throw anybody out, and you're stealing on him.
I will agree to a certain extent. How many bang plays you see at first base and second base and third base all year long? 4 inches is a lot in baseball. But if the guy stinks, I agree with you, Bags. It doesn't matter if it's 4 inches or 4 feet. I get it.
Right.
And Steven does say it's not only the catcher's fault, it is the pitcher's fault. He's supposed to hold the guy close to the bag. But again, as Keith says, you can only throw over there twice now. And it does speed up the game, but it does also give an advantage to the base runner knowing that he's not going to go over there again. So Anyway,
Yeah, but I mean,
so
but let's
yes, it
face
is.
it. The going over there 2 times. I mean, but pitchers would go over there and go over and go over and go over and go over, and the guy would still steal the base. So I felt like that was more or less a stall tactic in a lot of ways to try. They were using it to get in the batter's head to make the batter impatient. That's what the pitchers were doing by throwing over to first base. You get everybody booing, you slow down the game and stuff like that. I like the rule to that regard because when you think somebody's going to steal, when you go to throw over there, there have been a good amount of pickoff plays now because of this as well. Pickoff plays have jumped up tremendously this last year or this year. I'd be willing to bet that pickoff plays are up a good 15 to 20% from what they were before they did these rules.
Well, I mean, you can say that people did boo. I think it's foolish to throw over there when a guy just has a 1 foot lead. That's a little crazy. I agree with that, Bags, to a point. Anyway, but when you got somebody speedy on the bases, you want to try to keep them as close as possible. But again, 9 stolen bases, Keith, is way too much. That's ridiculous. That's minor league.
That guy can't be behind the plate, And again, maybe it was Lee Trevino because I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of a catcher giving up 9 stolen bases in a game.
That is the most in Boston Red Sox history. I think so. Well, it's 1915 or something ridiculous. Anyway, let's get to a little NFL. Sonia, let me get you in here. Roger Goodell and Jerry Jones do take the witness stand defending the NFL ticket because they're being sued by 2.4 million people and 48,000 businesses in a class action lawsuit because they are breaking the antitrust laws according to the lawsuit because they're only allowing one provider to sell these tickets and they're not letting the locals sell their providers so you can watch just the games you want to watch. You have to buy all these games, and if you're a Saints fan, you have to watch the Chargers and the Broncos and all these other people. And if you like the Carolina Panthers, you probably want to watch other teams, Sonia. But so it might work out for you, but everybody else is mad. What can you say to that?
No, I'm literally waiting on my postcard so I can jump on the bandwagon of this $5 lawsuit I'm probably going to get a part of, if that. It is. It's out of market. It's ridiculous. We've seen this for years. The prices are exorbitant. And so this is a federal case. The federal judge that's presiding in this particular case has talked about how frustrating it is. Of course, you mentioned Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. He got on the stand, I think it was yesterday. Yesterday. They've been testifying for the last few days. And the judge is basically saying that anybody that would be living in another area not able to see their game, like he basically is already acting biased towards the class action lawsuit. So I don't know where the NFL or these providers are going to think they got a fair trial when the judge is already basically saying he agrees. 2.4 million residential subscribers and 48,000 businesses paid for out-of-market games from 2011 through 2022. And so by doing that, that's the antitrust agreement law that you're talking about, that these package games were sold on Sundays, aired on CBS and Fox, and the prices were inflated. And I don't know what the end all is going to be for this. I just know that we definitely, we need some resolve because we saw it last season, guys. It wasn't just CBS and Fox anymore airing these. Like, I think I told you guys, I saw a game on the True Crime Network, and I was like, what is happening? TBS, we know Nickelodeon's trying to stream their version of the Super Bowl for kids and what have you. Peacock, but you're paying so many other subscribers to try to keep up with these games. And like you said, me living here in Atlanta, they're definitely not playing any Panthers games. One particular Sunday, they had us scheduled to play. It looked like on the TV guide. Literally, I remember this a few years ago. And the Falcons were on a bye week. So we were like, okay, they'll show the Panthers. Turned it on, and they were showing freaking car racing. I was livid. So it's like you would get your hopes of like, okay, we're finally going to get some airtime. And we were actually winning for all of you guys that are joking. We were actually winning some games back then. Okay, so that's not the reason why we weren't being played. I don't know what happened, but it's an entire mess, and I don't know. $5 is not going to make me happy. I wish I had my own lawsuit without all these other million people.
Well, it's
Started in
$21 million. That's got to amount to some money, doesn't it? More than $5, I would.
$20 million and 2 some million. Okay, so
I can't do the math. I can't do the math.
About $10, maybe 100, maybe
No, that'd be
100.
at least around 100, probably. Yeah,
Yeah, about $100.
Well, the
So-
lawyer's got to take his cut.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. You're back down to
then-
$5. You're
Yeah.
back down to $5.
Yep. And I haven't
So
even got I haven't even got my postcard yet to participate. So I don't even know if I'm part of this class action suit. I'm a little mad. Like I might need to reach out to some of these people. Like if you've been hurt by the NFL and subsidiaries, call us now. That kind of thing.
Oh Lord. So Chris Gray is 54. Congratulations. All right, there you go. So,
All right, happy birthday, Chris Gray.
yeah, we're gonna talk about everybody's birthdays too. So anyway, so that's the business side of the NFL. Another business that follows the NFL a lot, of course, is Hard Knocks. They're going to be featuring the AFC North during the season. So far they've had the Giants off season. They're doing the Bears in training camp, and now they're going to do the AFC North during the season. John Harbaugh is not a big fan. He says he doesn't really watch it. He says that it's distracting and all this stuff. And of course, if you remember, Baltimore is the first one that actually had Hard Knocks there. So anyway, what do you guys think? I mean, is there too much Hard Knocks on right now? Is it oversaturated? Do we really care about the Bears, and do we care about the Giants off season? Do we care about all this stuff?
This is the end season Hard Knocks that has all these teams on there. Both Ohio teams are there. Of course, Lamar, and then the Giants, aka the Tinies, are going to be on there. And so to me, that's just too much Hard Knocks. I mean, it loses the theatrical purpose of the title at some point. Everybody's not freaking Hard Knocks. Get a team like the Panthers. Let us redo it because we really are on hard times right now, and not all these other teams. So I don't know.
She's just trying to get the Panthers anywhere in the media because nobody
Exactly.
gives a damn.
The Florida Panthers. I'll even take the Florida Panthers who are playing in the NHL Pags. Anybody that's Panthers, I'm going for them. You're right. You're so right.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Panthers, Keith. Of course, Tepler is ready. If he don't get his money, he's ready to pack his team up and leave.
Yep.
So, you might not have any Panther games to be looking at there, Sonia, here soon. He's going to take his ball and go home if he doesn't get that $600 million in free money where he doesn't have to pay him back. So
You can't leave. You can't leave unless the rest of the owners say you can. So he's going to have in that market, somebody's going to go into it. They're not going to let him leave that market. Never.
They've threatened this before. I don't even know, Mac, why you would direct that question to Keith because he has no insider information about my team. Keith, no disrespect. But let me
leave. You can't leave. I know that.
Right. And let's be clear. They are threatening to leave because he's not getting money once again to now revolve this stadium and whatnot. But even before Tepper came and Richardson was there with all his scandal, they were talking about buying a team out, moving it anyway. And so we've been here before and we're not worried.
Okay. Well, listen, I would be worried if Tepler was my owner because, he's either going to leave or get kicked out or, and he's, I don't know. Carolina's a mess. That's all I know. And
well, the team's not going anywhere.
Exactly
in that market. Every professional sport wants to get into that market, and
they're not
letting them leave. The NFL's not letting a team go.
He's a Tinies fan. What can you say, Keith? He doesn't know.
A quick shout out there to Sports Huddle Network. Thanks for joining us today on the National Professional Streaming Sports Show. What else I got for you? Is there any team, James or Pags, that you would like to see on Hard Knocks that aren't, that haven't been scheduled this year or that hasn't been on recently? Is there any team that you would want to see besides the Eagles and the Saints?
Pittsburgh. I'd like to see the quarterback controversy between Russell and
There.
Field. Yeah, I think that'd be interesting to see them. And I like Mike Tomlin as a coach, so I can see his interactions with players that he's got to cut and different things like that. He's a no nonsense coach, so I think that'd be very interesting to see.
Okay, Pags. I know besides Eagles and the Cowboys, because I know Cowboys would be the second team you'd want to see on Hard Knocks.
Right now, I'd like to see a Hard Knocks on the WNBA.
Really?
Yeah. I think that or just the Olympics and how the Olympics are going to pull $500 million in funding if Caitlin Clark is not on Team USA, which I thought was freaking amazing. So stuff like that. Like I think that's an interesting story right now. Beyond that, I could care less. I've never seen Hard Knocks before in my life.
I've never.
Is
that true,
Pags? To be honest with you.
Wow.
I've not watched it. I've not watched one episode. I have no idea what anybody's talking about.
If the Eagles crash and burn like they did last season, they'll be on their next season. So you'll
Maybe.
get a chance to watch them.
Possibly. But when we win the Super Bowl, we'll be exempt from also being on Hard Knocks. So either way.
Super Bowl is that? Okay.
Well, it ain't going to be the Panthers there, Sonia.
We'll
So
be
keep-
there.
no,
We'll be
hold
there
your breath
before
on
the
them.
Eagles come back. We'll
You
be
wanna
there
bet?
before the
You
Eagles
want to
come
bet?
back.
You want to bet? We
Yeah.
can bet whatever you want to bet.
Yeah.
No.
Save this clip, Mac. Save this clip. The Panthers will be there before the Eagles
Okay.
get
Wow.
Good evening.
Wow.
Good evening, Paul.
That's a bold take.
A lot of talk going on. Tom Brady does his first debut, kind of, as he was in the second quarter of the UFL, and he did help present the trophy at the end. His first game will be Cleveland versus Dallas. Should be a good game. I think he will have interest other than the game. I think people will also, Tom Brady fans, will tune in to watch and see how Tom Brady does, Keith. And listen, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's a fired up guy. I think he's got a good personality. He's sure been out in front of the media forever. I think he'll do great.
Be better because they got $750 million invested in him. And there'll be more people watching him than the 4 people that watched him on the UFL game. I know that. So
Yes, that's
which-
true.
it was only his family probably watching that day. But yeah, I think there'll be great interest and see what he does. I mean, but I'm not big on announcers. I watch a lot of games that I can't even hear the announcers, and I'm more than happy not to. So he'll probably do just as well as any of the other guys do. I kind of like Greg Olson, the guy he's replacing, but
Yes, Greg. I don't know why he's being replaced. I'm so mad about that.
because they're paying
know.
Brady $750 million.
Horrible.
I don't know if everybody knows this, but they did try. It was an AFC game. I think San Diego was one of the teams in this game. They tried it without announcers. They actually broadcast the game.
It was in the 80s.
And they had you could hear the on-field announcer, but there was actually no crew at all.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I feel like it might have been. It was the Dolphins were in the game. I know that it was in the 80s on NBC.
Yes.
Well,
I-
that's funny you guys said that because during the college playoffs, I don't know if y'all know or not, the UConn Husky ladies game, the announcers were late to that game. And it was really weird for like 10, 15 minutes. I was like, is something wrong with my TV? And so all of a sudden they got on and they were like, sorry, we had technical difficulties. I'm like, no, you guys were late because they didn't even have a video or anything of them. And I was just like, wow, like they legit weren't there. And you could hear the courtside announcers, regular for the whoever was there, but not for TV. It was crazy.
Interesting.
I hear you. And Rick, we got a great program. If you love the Raiders, Captain Jack, he's on, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday night, if I'm not mistaken, around 9, 10 o'clock. He's on YouTube. He's on our Facebook. And he's also on our Roku channel. So check him out. He's a spokesman for the Raiders. I always got a promo in my back pocket, guys. I always do. Let's talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson won the MVP last year, probably had his best season. He threw for 3,698 yards, 24 TDs, 7 touchdowns, and of course, ran for about 800 yards and about 10 touchdowns there. What is it with Lamar Jackson? John Harbaugh says he has room to grow. Is it because he's a running quarterback that he can't win the big one? And let me remind all of you, I mean, we're not talking about scramblers. No pure running quarterback, which running is like their second or first option, has ever won a Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes runs, but he runs when he has to. He's more of a scrambler. But if you're going to talk, Fran Tarkenton was basically, he was a scrambler, but he ran the ball quite a bit. Bobby Douglas, all these great running quarterbacks haven't won a Super Bowl yet. Is that the reason why he hasn't done that? Or is it because Baltimore's offense, he doesn't have enough weapons? What is it with Lamar Jackson for him to get over that hump? Or does he ever get over that hump? What do you think, James?
I think he may get over the hump, but I mean, you got a guy that's won 3 Super Bowls that's in his way. He's in a lot of people's way. Michael Jordan was in a lot of people's way. I think it's just a matter of who's the best right now, and that's Patrick Mahomes. He's in the way of everybody. So it's not like
I disagree, and I'll tell you, I feel like that you have. It becomes one-on-one. It becomes the defensive coordinator versus Lamar Jackson. And when you have that type of setup and you have a week to prepare, when you take him out of the mix, Lamar Jackson's got to be able to use somebody else as a crutch when he's not able to get the job done and he doesn't have that. So it literally becomes one-on-one.
Yeah.
And always that defensive coordinator is going to win when it comes to something like that.
But Pags, I got a rebuttal to you, buddy. Your quarterback is a similar quarterback, and he got to the Super Bowl. If it wasn't for one fumble, he'd have a perfect game. He played an excellent Jalen Hurts.
He did.
He got to the Super Bowl.
He did.
Yeah,
but he also got outcoached. Like they got outcoached in the second half. The adjustments in the second half.
He had better players around him to get to the Super Bowl as well. I mean, he didn't have to carry the entire load.
Right. I mean, you had A.J. Brown helping with the load. You had Devonta Smith helping with the load. You had Miles Sanders helping with the load. I mean, so there were a number of different factors. It wasn't just Jalen Hurts. But when it became just Jalen Hurts in the second half, they had answers for him. You had
the defense breaking Brock Purdy's arm in the championship game. So, that helped too.
Sonia, what are your thoughts? You're kind of quiet on this. I mean, I'm not making this up. It's facts that it hasn't been done yet. I'm not saying it will never be done. Is there a difference between a pocket quarterback like a Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes basically is a pocket quarterback, that these guys more depend on reading the defense than just taking off with their second read? Is there something to be said about that? That, they're more in control of the offense?
Yeah, they actually want Lamar Jackson to work on more audibles so that he can get better out there and where he needs to be. And I think it leans towards making the quarterback a more independent player as opposed to being more dependent on the read options of both the offense, the offensive line, and the defense. Because if you make the player an independent thinker without relying on either the mistake of someone else or their performance, then you're putting yourself in a better position to win. We've seen quarterbacks run, make their own plays, sometimes go against what the coaching suggests. Go for it on 4th down when the coach is on the sideline screaming, no, go for the field goal. And then just by the luck of the draw, the quarterback is correct. The quarterback is on the field. Sometimes he can see things last minute that other players may not see. And because he's the one seeing the read options, I think that's why they're trying to put this statement out here for Lamar, because we do see Lamar continue to get almost to the finish line, and then he's stopped by Patrick Mahomes, or he's stopped by Josh Allen. Not necessarily, but I'm just giving you examples of other teams that have quarterbacks that are just as comparable in that division. And so now they're like, okay, Harbaugh knows him. He's been there for a long time. They are seasoned together. He knows what he needs to work on. He knows what his weaknesses are. and he's building upon his independent strength. I feel like in building upon those, he removes the stigma of, okay, he can't be a pocket passer because the pocket is collapsing or what have you. And if he does that, then he's putting the team and the shoulder more on Lamar's back, which is what the quarterback is. They are the helm and the leader of that team.
All right, well, all good and well. He got to the game. He laid an egg. He laid an egg. He got too emotional when he played the Chiefs. He threw interceptions. He got way too emotional. All I'm saying is, when you look at a style of a pocket quarterback who makes the audible reads, who reads the coverages, who makes the throws in the tight windows, Brady, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl for the Baltimore Ravens. No means a running quarterback. I just think there's a little something extra there for them. I don't think you can make Jackson a pocket quarterback. That goes against his instinct. I don't think he can. Maybe they do. Maybe he gets to the Super Bowl. Maybe he wins one. We'll see. But so far, it hasn't been done. And speaking of quarterbacks, we all talk what's going to happen, with Wilson and Fields. Let's look at Atlanta Falcons for a minute. Atlanta Falcons spent all this money on Kirk Cousins. They come out in the first 8 games. Suppose they're 2-6 or 3-5. Do they let the rookie come in and start a game? What do you think, Keith?
I think if they're 2-6, everybody gets fired. That's what I think.
Yeah,
because you were built. I'll keep saying this till the end of time. They're building this team for now, and they draft a quarterback when they just signed one for $140 million. It's the most foolish move going into the season any team could have made. And will they play him? Look at if you're 2-6, is it going to matter at that point? Probably not. Play him. But again, if they played him, everybody should get fired that was involved in this decision because
right away, expeditiously.
Yeah, you did nothing to help the guy you did something for $140 million. You gave him
first season. If
I'm Kirk Cousins, I want out of there the minute you drafted Michael Penix because I want to know what you're doing to help me now. It's just ridiculous. I can't believe this team.
I can't wait for them to think.
They said the same thing when they drafted a lot of other quarterbacks higher than like the Jordan Loves, and even Jalen Hurts was drafted higher than people thought.
In the top 10 picks.
And these guys became good quarterbacks, and they waited their turn. But
those teams didn't just sign a new quarterback for $140 million.
That's true.
He is not a top 10 quarterback. Let's be clear. They drafted him in the top 10. He is not a top. Michael Penix Jr. is not a top 10 quarterback. He has injuries to every quadrant of his body. You are kidding me.
Yeah.
I still think he's a top 10 quarterback, but I agree with the injuries. It makes sense to draft him when you have a quarterback already to pay a ransom amount of money. And also, Michael Penix, his age, he's 24. He's going to be 25, I think, start of the season. And so if he doesn't play, he'll be like, if this guy plays his whole contract out in Kirk Cousins, by the time Michael Penix will play, he'll be 28, 29 years old. This is out of control. That didn't make any sense.
They were sitting him for 3 years. They're doing it the Packer way. They're sitting him for 3 years. That's what they said.
Until he's 40 years old.
55.
Pags wants to put the WNBA on Hard Knocks, and if they were, they would have found out that Brittany Griner and her fiance decides to beat up some people. They assaulted somebody. They got a little bit in trouble. Assault and disorderly conduct. I guess her girlfriend is Glory Johnson from the Tulsa Shock. So I don't know. I guess that's a WNBA team too. So if Hard Knocks was there, maybe we would have got to see the whole fight go on camera there.
Brandon. Brittany needs to go sit down somewhere. We've already seen Brandon over in Russia with the whole free her, free him or whatever from the THC fiasco.
Yeah,
now you're putting pauses. And I thought she was married to somebody. I'm so confused at this point.
She'll make out better in the courts here than she did in Russia, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, double teaming. Super wrestling.
One more item, kind of boxing. Jake Paul signs to fight martial artist, bare knuckle fighting champion Mike Perry in spite of Tyson, Mike Tyson dropping out.
Oh, I missed that. What?
Why
he
is
didn't
this guy? What? Oh, Mike Tyson dropped out because he got hurt. Yeah, he did.
Well, it's postponed, but I'm
Yeah,
Is this from the stomach issue when he was on his flight?
All right. Calm down. He dropped out of the July 20th fight. Okay, so he's fighting a bare knuckle champion. Pags, I think, was fighting bare knuckles while he was arm wrestling at one time, and Frank wouldn't go for the bare knuckles. That's why that fight never came out.
I was going for the shotgun championship. If everybody saw, like on every, seemed like every website out there.
So
We did the shotgun started off.
Why are we even talking about Jake Paul when he doesn't fight anybody seriously? He hasn't fought one real boxer except Tyson Fury's brother, who wasn't that good, who beat him.
All right, so
Anyone
answer that question. Answer
Go
that
ahead.
question because you're the one that brought it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you answer. You're the one that brought it up. I would have never have talked about Jake Paul. Who the hell is he? He ain't worth nothing. He ain't worth my time. He's not
I
worth my
just
time.
want to know,
think-
did Tyson postpone his fight because of the stomach issue he had on the flight? Is that what it was?
he's got something wrong. Yeah,
They
Yeah.
said it was ulcers. That does not cause you to delay
it'll
a
never.
flight.
This
What
fight,
happened was
that fight will
maybe
never
4
happen.
seconds into this, and he realized that 4 seconds of that little TikTok video really was not going to be enough to whoop anybody's ass.
That fight will never happen. You watch.
I
He
don't
will.
think so. I don't think so. And I would love to see a bare knuckle fight in the ring. That would be great. I want to see that. That won't happen either. So, but
Pags
anyway,
Frank Laterzo, I think, would be the first match I'd want to see.
Yes.
Frank
Bet.
wants the over.
Mac, to answer your question. Mac, to answer
Sure.
your question, everybody wants to see this kid get knocked out. It's marketing. It's great. I mean, everybody wants to see him lose, but he's going to pick the people that are over the hill, that are not best at their sport. Everybody wants to see him lose, and he's not going to lose. He did lose one. He lost the last match against the other guy, but
Yeah.
people
The
want to
Fury
lose,
brother.
get knocked out. Probably not.
All right. Okay. That's good enough. See, Pags? That was the answer. That's the answer I was looking for. Guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks to Sonia, the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pags, J Train, James Martin, of course, our TGI Sports Talk host, Keith Angle. Thank you for all the views, comments, and have a great night. And right after this, our new show, Talking Baseball. Well, it's an old show that's coming back on, 7 o'clock. Talking Baseball with Sal. Andrew Laletti is following this by Sportscope, prim and proper. Got a lot of shows tonight. Stay tuned on Roku.